What's up, guys? Today I'm reading in the Gospel of Mark. I'm in chapter 6. I was looking at the sections between verses 45 and 51. This is where Jesus walks on the sea. This is repeated in the other Gospels, the Synoptic Gospels as well, in Matthew and Luke. But this was, it just kind of stood out to me in Mark today. Like, there's just something unique about this, and I love the Gospel of Mark. It's probably my favorite Gospel. There's just something special about the Gospel of Mark to me, with a lot of the cinematic and theatrical aspects and the bullet point action and stuff. It's just cool. But I was looking at this section, and I'll start at verse 45, and it says, "Immediately he made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, to Bethsaida, while he sent the multitude away." So he put his disciples in a boat, and they went out by themselves, like without Jesus. And verse 46 says, "And when he had sent them away, he departed to the mountain to pray." And then it says, "Now when the evening came, the boat was in the middle of the sea, and he was alone on the land." So we got disciples in the sea, middle of the sea in the evening, so either late afternoon, or earlier nighttime kind of a thing. And then we have Jesus alone on the land, so they're separate, they're not together at this point. And then verse 48 says, "Then he saw them straining at rowing, for the wind was against them." And that just hit me when I read that. I was like, just something in my spirit was like, yeah, it's right here. It's right here. And the rest of verse 48 says, "Now about the fourth watch of the night, he came to them walking on," this just so anointed. "Now about the fourth watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea, and would have passed them by." And I feel like there's something to would have passed them by too, but I'm really trying to there's so much meat here that I'm just trying to focus on this one aspect. But, he would have passed them by. But, so verse 48 says, then he saw them straining at rowing, for the wind was against them." And this is so interesting because Jesus put the disciples in a boat by themselves, sent them out to go across, to go before him, said, "I'll meet you there," basically. And it's recorded a little bit differently in the other Gospels, but this is a huge trial in a sense, and it seemed like nothing. They're like, "Great, we'll hop in the boat, we'll meet him there, no big deal." But it says that in the evening they were in the middle of the sea, so they're literally in the middle of this sea by themselves in this boat without Jesus. It's kind of like one of their first times, other than when he sent them out, like that they're kind of just alone in this process. And previously they had been with Jesus in a boat when a storm came, and Jesus was sleeping at the bottom of the boat. No big deal. He wasn't worried, but they went and woke him up because they're freaking out. So now they're back in a boat, back in the sea, back kind of without Jesus, as he was asleep prior to that in the last boat. So kind of like, repeating the same thing, like, "Hey, I'm gonna bring you back to this. You still have something to learn here, maybe." And so the word straining in Greek is so interesting. It's basanizo, and this is so good. When I read this, basanizo is like to examine somebody by torturing them. And I know it sounds gruesome, but it's kind of like a tormenting trial, or another one was like, you are like buffeting somebody, so you're like beating, knocking, crashing against them in a sense. And that's often used like in reference to waves. And I found that really interesting to look at the Greek because they happen to be on the water, and so it's just very interesting that basanizo, it's an examination or a trial. It's an examination by trial or by torture. So it's like Jesus is standing on the land watching his disciples, and he's allowing them to go through this trial. He's standing on the shore watching them. He sees them, and he sees them straining, this basanizo at rowing, this torturous trial in rowing. But there's something to the trial. He's not just watching them to let them suffer, but there's a purpose. There's something that he's trying to examine in them to see, if they have it in them, or to let them see if they have it in them, or so, to repeat this. And I really like this too because it says, "Now at about the fourth watch of the night, he came to them, walking on the sea." And the fourth watch is the last watch of the night. And supposedly it's known as the darkest hour of the night. It's between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. This is actually the same time that the Israelites were delivered from slavery in Exodus, was this fourth watch. And this is known as that darkest time of the night. And at that darkest time, so evening is when they were in the middle of the sea, but Jesus didn't come until the fourth watch. And I find that to be very interesting because he allowed them to go through this trial. So at this darkest hour, Jesus came to them walking on top of what they're fighting against. And it says that when he got into the boat, immediately the wind ceased. And I'm just going to let that sink into you today. But it really brought to my, mind, just like, the Spirit led me to 1 Peter chapter 5, when he talks, after you've suffered for a while, like the God of all mercy and grace will come to perfect, establish, and strengthen you. And then he goes on to say, and to him be the glory and dominion, which is power, kratos in Greek, which is like strength, power, and exertion of power. To him be the glory and dominion forever and ever. So like, there might be a trial in your life right now that you're going through, and he's standing on the shore and he's examining what you're learning, what you're adapting to, how you're processing this, how you're handling this. And in that fourth hour, in that darkest hour, he was still there. So maybe you're in that fourth watch tonight. Maybe you're in that right now. And I would encourage you that he hasn't let you go. You're not out of his sight. You're not going to go through something, that you won't be able to handle without him. But the thing is that they were straining at rowing. They were basanizo in this process. But there are some storms. In fact, I would venture to say that all storms can only be, managed or calmed with Jesus in the boat. And so if you don't have Jesus in your boat today, if you're going through a storm right now and you feel like there's this arduous torture, this tormenting trial, maybe what he's saying is, I need to be in the boat. I need to be in the boat with you. This isn't something for you to do on your own. And so if you feel like you're in the middle of the sea and you're straining, you're just being tormented in this trial, maybe it's time to examine yourself in this trial. To examine, maybe the disciples, that's good, Lord. Maybe they were examining themselves through this torture. Maybe it wasn't Jesus examining them, but maybe this basanizo, to examine by using torture. Maybe it was them to themselves, examining themselves like, hey, are we going to bring him into this? And it says in that fourth watch of the night, he came to them, and immediately the wind ceased and everything was calm. And they were greatly amazed in themselves beyond measure and marveled. So if you're ready for that, today, I would encourage you to welcome Jesus into your boat. Bring him into your boat. Give your life, your time, your schedule, your plans, your dreams, your hopes, your storm. Give it to Jesus, because when he is in the boat, the wind must cease. So I would encourage you with that, guys. Today, this was an epic little study, and I just love this word. This is part of why I love the Gospel of Mark. It's very bullet point, but there is so much depth, so much meat in all of these little lines. So there is so much more to this passage, so much more, and that was like surface, but I would just encourage you guys to go through this and examine this for yourself. This was Mark chapter 6, verses 45 through 51. And I would just encourage you guys to look into this for yourselves and see what the Spirit would reveal to you in it. I just pray that this blesses you, and have a great week, guys. God bless you.